Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome Srimati Irani, the Honorable Minister for Textiles, Enhancement and Sustainability. I really do not need to introduce her, but her exemplary contributions speak for themselves. One of the youngest members of Modi ji's cabinet, Mrs. Irani has distinguished herself in every assignment given to her. She is surely one of the ministers we all look up to for inspiration. I read somewhere that we may be immune to typhoid, tetanus, chickenpox, but never memory. There is no inoculation against memory. Perhaps memory here is talked about a little bit more melancholily, but memory is also our embedded past, our culture, our traditions, and our sense of identity. Today's subject, future lies in the past, leveraging India's embedded knowledge to pivot India's growth story is very, very apt and pertinent. Today, as India is trying to find its place as a global superpower, we also need to know and remember that we also need to grow our soft power. We as a nation cannot be successful if we do not look beyond GDP. Relevance and potential of the textile industry is absolutely undeniable today. The deep impact it has on agriculture, the impact on lives, the impact on environment, and the impact on GDP is huge. And I'm sure this is something that we all look forward to hear from all our panelists about how we can use and leverage our embedded knowledge, our past, to make things better for the future. So I will not waste more time, and without further ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Niranjan Hirandani, the President of ASSOCHAM and founder and managing director of the Hirandani Group of Companies, to give the context-setting address. Thank you.
A very good morning to you, Honorable Minister. It's such a privilege to meet you and always learn so much from you. Thank you very much for coming and honoring us here today. You have privileged position, textile industry and childcare, I think very important. This is something which is extremely important because India has been a cornerstone of textile manufacturing, producing of raw materials which are there. And today, our share of textile clothing in India's total exports stands at 12%. India has 5% of the global trade in textiles and apparel. Today, when we look at the past, we also look ahead to the future because textiles is something which has had a huge multiplier effect in terms of the economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji looking at a $5 trillion economy, creation, looking after the unemployment of the sector. This has become textiles takes more importance. I think I see the changes that are taking place in all the policies that have come up in the recent past. The labor reforms becomes a very, very, very important part of textile manufacturing things. In the earlier days, when many textile units moved out of China, almost 42 of them, 23 went to Vietnam. What was it? They said ease of doing business and labor, and of course, a part of it due to land. I think the labor part of it has been addressed. Land issues will continue to happen, but the consolidation of all those thoughts are helping us, and we have been interacting with many of the states in order to see that those specific challenges are also met. Our smart manufacturing speaks various challenges. We're talking about the lead time is shortened. Rising material and labor costs have reduced margins in this industry. However, I'm pleased to inform you, Madam Minister, that the textile industry was one of the first to spring back into full working. Here we have Dipti Goenka over here with us this morning, and she was just telling us a few minutes ago that within 30 days of the lockdown, she was able to open out the factories completely up to 90% production. I think textile industry needs to be saluted and congratulated for the excellent coming back of these. especially when it is labor intensive. If we are looking at an Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think all the factors which we are talking about needs perfect alignment. A perfect alignment is critical to make in India, skill India, women's empowerment, and rural youth employment. All this is possible in the textile sector and becomes important. The challenges of COVID had also been met by the textile industry. We have become the second largest manufacturer of PPE in the entire world in this short period of time. And this is something wonderful that we see in this industry. FDI in textiles and apparel has reached up to 3.45 billion during 2020. And of course, in spite of being a challenging year. Export in textiles and apparel industry are expected to reach 300 billion in 2024, resulting in a tripling of the Indian market share from 5% to 50%. That's why, Madam, we seek your blessings, your guidance, and your help to the industry so that the multiplier effect in the economy does happen. ASSOCHAM feels that the textile industry can be the real spring booster to get back employment, especially with the surpluses of manpower from agriculture need to be taken into this. Madam, we would also request on the lines of national education policy, the labor reform policies which have happened, to announce a national textile policy so that the entire world should know that we want to retain this leadership of manufacturing and would one day become the #1 producer, manufacturer, and exporter of textile in the world. We do believe that the job market is important. We do believe that in the next 1 year, we could create 30 to 35 million jobs if the textile industry can take the booster to the next level. We are ready for it, Madam Minister, and we look forward to your guidance, your support, and your direction into how we can take it forward. I promise you and assure you that ASSOCHAM will take all possible steps to take part in whatever you direct us to do in terms of taking this subject forward to achieve the Honorable Prime Minister's target of Atmanirbhar Bharat and the $5 trillion economy and taking care of the employment. Thank you very much, Madam Minister. It is such a pleasure always to speak to you. Thank you very much, and to all the listeners who have gathered here today to hear the Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hiraneni. Now, ma'am, we would like to get a few industry speakers to speak about their perspectives. The first speaker I would like to invite is Mrs. Dipali Goenka. She is the CEO and Managing Director of Welspun India. Over to you, Mrs. Goenka.
So, good morning to everyone. First of all, Niranjanji, I think thank you for supporting the textile industry in such a big way. So, I'm delighted to be present at the eminent ASSOCHAM Foundation Day 2020 and share space with Honorable Union Minister of Textiles and Women and Child Development, Mrs. Smriti Irani, whom I admire, and distinguished industry leaders. It has been an unprecedented year for textile industry, a year of disruption as well as reimagination. But like every crisis, the pandemic also provides an opportunity to accelerate the transformational journey of the industry. At the outset, I would like to applaud the resilience of the industry this year, fueled by the great support from our government, Ma'am Minister. Textile industry is the second largest employer in the country and contributes to 2.5% of India's GDP. India's strength lies in our youth and rural communities. In order to become a 5 trillion GDP, Niranjanji, you added on to that, spoke about it. India would need to add 90 million non-farming jobs in the coming decade. Textile industry, under the leadership of Smriti ji, will play a pivotal role in realizing this aspiration and building an Atmanirbhar Bharat of the future. Globally, India reigns supreme in cotton, handlooms, and natural fibers. We are the world's largest producer of cotton and jute. But to unlock the next wave of economic growth, we also need to focus on man-made fibers, MMF, and technical textiles. Globally, there has been rising demand for MMF due to shifts in fashion and consumption trends. The government has taken several steps, including removal of anti-dumping duty of PTA, which will open up the MMF sector of textiles. The recent PLI scheme will also encourage investment in MMF and technical textiles. Centre's decision to form a dedicated export promotion council for technical textiles will further boost exports and strengthen the domestic manufacturing capacity. Government also needs to consider a fiber neutral textile policy and an MMF for skill upgradation to further support the industry. This year also witnessed global companies diversifying the supply chains and adopting China +1 sourcing strategy. India is strongly positioned to have the major share of such global changes. Global retailers like Walmart have recently committed to triple their sourcing from India to $10 billion annually. Welspun is a strategic partner to most of the biggest retailers in the world. Government's much-awaited national textile policy will also help India unleash its full potential and become globally competitive in textile sector by targeting $100 billion in exports. Trade agreements with the US and EU also need to be reviewed so that high duties paid by textile industry is reduced and we are competitive with peer countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh. Growth of the PPE industry during the COVID-19 crisis is an example of what collaborative efforts between the state and the industry can achieve. At the beginning of the pandemic, India was entirely import dependent for PPE kits. Niranjanji alluded to it. Today, we are the world's second largest manufacturer, an initiative strongly led by you, our Honorable Minister Smriti. To support the nation and community, Welspun also leveraged its integrated woven and non-woven capabilities to produce health and hygiene products, ranging from masks, wipes, disposable linen, and coveralls. As the world came to a standstill in March, Welspun went out of its way to take care of its extended family of 100,000 people who are our greatest assets. We leveraged technology and innovation to keep them safe during the pandemic. We introduced Penta protocols, a 5-layered security framework for safety of our factory associates, as well as WellHeal app. We ensured all the salaries were duly paid and essential items were provided for. We reached out to associate families in their distant villages to assure them of their safety. Welspun, therefore, could swiftly start its operation as the people felt safe with us. Digitization has accelerated by leaps and bounds this year. AI, IoT, and Industry 4.0 are set to become the norm. As the homebody economy grew, we saw a huge rise in e-commerce. We have accelerated digital initiatives across the organization and invested upskilling and reskilling of our workforce. Such digitization practices will be critical to improving productivity and competing globally. As COVID has restricted travel, by using innovative digital technologies, we are virtually engaging with our customers to showcase our latest innovations through our 3D virtual showrooms, conduct virtual quality inspections, and virtual factory visits. Welspun is focused towards ESG. We have already made proactive shift both in a business strategy and operating model that fulfill the SDG and ESG norms. With well-defined roadmap and targets, proud to share that Welspun's sustainability journey has now been covered as a Harvard case study. When we built the world's largest home textile facility in the arid region of Anjar, Kutch, it had just suffered a devastating earthquake. Today, it is a thriving, self-sustaining ecosystem and an inspiring journey and development employing more than 20,000 people. 100% of our water needs in Anjar are met through recycled wastewater, so that fresh water remains fully available to the local communities. This has been possible by a 30 million liters of sewage treatment plant, which treats sewage water collected from nearby villages and makes it available for manufacturing and free potable water for our people in the communities and water for irrigation for our farmers. Welspun also works with farmers to grow BCI and organic cotton in Wardha, Maharashtra, Kutch, Gujarat. Our projects are spread over 350 villages and indirectly impact 75,000 farm workers. Close to my heart is the inclusion of women into mainstream. At Welspun, 25% of our employees are women, and we are determined to grow this further. Welspun is committed to engaging and employing women, not just at the shop floor, but also in the digital and technology-oriented roles. I humbly applaud Honorable Union Minister of Textiles and Women and Child Development, Mrs. Smriti Irani, for developing laws that are strong enablers of women empowerment in the country. I personally appreciate the greater 50% initiatives that focus on improving the participation of women in not just the workforce, but across the board, including STEM roles. Welspun is also working with local women to create beautiful handcrafted products by upcycling factory remnants, which are sold globally under the brand Spun. I strongly believe that if the woman earns and is empowered, the child definitely goes to school. This initiative has led to a significant increase in women's income and empowered them with dignified livelihood opportunities. And to conclude it, our Honorable Prime Minister often states that in these challenging times, we all need to prepare for our future. Over several centuries, and even during this tough COVID period, textile industry has displayed powerful principles like adaptability, self-reliance, resilience, skill, and innovation. These principles differentiate us and will help us remain relevant in the emerging post-COVID future. Let us work collectively to leverage India's inherent textile strengths to drive the growth of a country towards a 5 trillion inclusive economy and an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dipali ji. Now I would like to invite Mrs. Priya Agarwal Heber, Director Vedanta, to please speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of Women and Child Development and Textiles, Srimati Smriti Irani ji, ASSOCHAM President Shri Niranjan Hiranandani ji, ASSOCHAM Senior Vice President Shri Vineet Agarwal ji, my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to be here today amongst such esteemed individuals. Thinking over the past few days, and one of the key thoughts in my mind is, what does my generation truly dream of when we think about India's future? One certain hope is for India to become a country of equal opportunity, to really achieve that true sense of Atmanirbharta. For this to become possible, India should ensure we open up to embracing all of our people and giving them a chance to a better future. I'm personally very passionate about bringing talent to the forefront and can think of grouping them in my mind as clusters of human capital. I'd like to touch upon 3 such clusters today. One such group are individuals who may not have had a chance to conventional education. I'd like to look back into our history today and think about Indian minds and how we have genetically unique traits that we must harness. For instance, we all know Indians are very well known to be the best strategists. I mean, the most strategic game in the world, chess, was originated in India. If we really look deeper, 90% of business in India, although unstructured, are successfully run, driven by the power of strategy. We must harness this and make use of it. We should encourage more and more original thinking to achieve something spectacular. Hence, opportunity for jobs in larger organizations should also be thought of given to people who may not have had a chance to formal education, but are filled with an array of ideas. You never know the kind of ideas they may bring to the table. At Vedanta, we may be a company that is an age-old rooted business, but we are very progressive in our approach to technology and innovation and doing things differently. We hire people who have not been tuned to conventional education and many of them often come up with ideas that are unique. We should definitely encourage this throughout the country. The next group of people I would like to touch upon, of course, 50% of our population, women. From Sarojini Naidu to Indira Nui, history has shown that India have the most intelligent, who are not just intelligent, but master multitaskers. We have a few amongst us today. We need to fully leverage these abilities and talents of this 50% of population if we want to march towards that Atmanirbhar Bharat that we truly dream of. I'm proud that at Vedanta, in partnership of the Ministry of Women and Child Development and with Shri Smriti Irani ji's support, we have set up the Nanghar program, a project that aims to transform the lives of 8 crore women and 2 crore children. I had the opportunity to meet an inspirational lady from the Nanghar named Pavna Devi from Barmer. She was a village housewife who went against all odds, against her family's wishes, and signed up for a Nanghar's entrepreneurship program for tailoring. She is today not only financially independent and contributing equally to the family, but she is training other women in her community to do the same. Today, during wedding season, she herself is earning 20,000 rupees a month. Imagine an India where all women are equal providers to the family, just like her. The third group of individuals I'd like to touch upon are those who have varied passions, talents, and career aspirations. India has a rich heritage in an array of fields, may it be art, music, sport, philosophy, and India should channelize these talents. India is diverse, and the one-size-fits-all strategy isn't the best solution for us. We need to create larger liberal arts institutions and harness our talents in different fields. It is important that we stop seeing these as alternative careers, but careers that can really help our country prosper. We need to make India a land of equal opportunities where, regardless of gender, geography, education, qualification, disability, all get equal opportunities to participate in the larger development process. India needs to celebrate diversity, which is one of our biggest strengths. And finally, of course, the most important, giving back. It's deeply ingrained in the fabric of our Indian culture. The onus is on each and every one of us here today, and to support the poor and underprivileged and work for the betterment of our communities, so that all together we can build a better and stronger India. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyaji. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. T. Rajkumar, who is the Chairman CITI and Chairman Shri Mahashakti Mills, to come and speak, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Respected Srimati Smriti Irani ji, Honorable Union Minister for Textiles and Women and Child Development, Dr. Niranjan Hirnandani, President ASSOCHAM, Shri Vineet Agarwal, Senior Vice President ASSOCHAM, and fellow industrial leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning all. I would like to congratulate ASSOCHAM, one of the apex trade bar association of India, on completing 100 years. Over the period of time, ASSOCHAM has emerged as a forceful, proactive, forward-looking institution equipped itself to meet the aspirations of corporate India in the new world of business. Friends, the textile and clothing industry, with great efforts and relentless support from the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, the Honorable Union Textile Minister, Srimati Smriti Irani ji, has redefined itself and regained the lost confidence during the COVID-19 pandemic period. The encouragement given by the government, especially our Honorable Union Minister of Textiles, has enabled our country to become the second largest manufacturer of PPE manufacturing in just less than 2 months, and today it has become a net exporter of PPE kits. It's a sole effort of our Union Honorable Minister for Textiles, and her encouragement and support had made this a reality. The Ministry of Textiles, under the guidance of our beloved Honorable Union Minister of Textiles, Srimati Smriti ji, and Secretary Textiles, are bringing about a series of policy reforms to make Indian textile and clothing industry globally competitive. We are extremely thankful to our Honorable Minister for the continuous support and hand-holding of the textile industry. Madam, even during these difficult times, your encouragements and your address to the world buyers and various other initiatives taken by you, Madam, the entire textile industry is doing well, and Tirupur has achieved one of the best times in the last 10 years during your leadership and under your guidance. The historical reforms brought by the Government of India under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister for the MSME sectors, especially the criteria for MSME eligibility, linking investment value to ITR, exemption, etc., has prevented closure of several lakhs of units and job losses for millions of people. To boost Indian textile sector and unleash its full potential, the government's plan to announce the national textile policy to make the sector globally competitive under the dynamic guidance of our Honorable Prime Minister and our Honorable Minister for Textiles. Indian textile and clothing industry is determined to reach a market size of $50 billion by 2025. The industry stakeholders are working day and night in collaboration with the Ministry of Textiles to make it a reality. Friends, in the history of India and the history of the textile industry, is the first time our Honorable Union Minister for Textiles has taken an initiative to brand the Indian cotton. Cotton being the mainstay for the Indian textile and clothing industry since a long time and a major foreign exchange earner for the Indian economy, the Honorable Union Minister for Textiles, Srimati Smriti Irani ji, launched the first ever cotton brand Kasturi for the Indian textile industry and for the world on occasion of the World Cotton Day celebrated jointly organized by the ministry and the textile bodies. Being the largest cotton producing country in the world, it was the much awaited demand of the Indian textile industry that Indian cotton should have its own brand. And now with the launch of Kasturi, Indian cotton stakeholders can hope to get good price realization for their products, which usually pitch around 10% less realization when comparing the same with their counterparts at international markets. The central government has also launched a production-linked incentive scheme to attract diversification, investment, and growth in the man-made fiber and the technical textile segments. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, the schemes will give the much-needed impetus to the government's initiative of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. The scheme is extended for 10 key specific sectors, of which textiles is one of them. And it's the total estimated outlay of 1.4 lakh crores, mainly for MMF and technical textile segments. Textile is the second largest employer in the country, providing employment to 45 million people, and this is expected to grow in the days and months to come. Many textile companies are now focusing on exports and are hoping that revenues and profit margins would pick up in the coming months. Madam, under your dynamic leadership, the entire value chain has picked up and it's showing good signs of revival. And this is the first time the entire value chain is working together, and we expect a very good year for the textile industry. The Indian textile industry is transforming to suit the growing demands of the global textile market, focusing on technical textiles. Recent government's focus, along with interest from private sector, will help drive growth in the space. Plans to develop mega textile parks and emphasis on man-made fibers alongside policy changes will attract higher investment, pushing overall growth for India. With these words, on behalf of the Confederation of Indian Textile Industry, CITI, I once again thank ASSOCHAM for organizing this important and meaningful session. We wish to have much more sessions in future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajkumar. Can I now request Mr. Anjani Prasad, Managing Director of Arch Roma India Private Limited, to share his thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinitji. It's a big pleasure to be addressing to this major Foundation Day event of ASSOCHAM, and also a great honor to speak in presence of the Textile and Human and Child Development Minister, Smriti Irani. Also, thanks to Senior Vice President Vinitji and President of ASSOCHAM, Dr. Hiranandani, to give me an opportunity, and also the industry leaders which are there. I come from Akroma, which is a basic major specialty chemical company in dyes and chemicals. We are in textiles, leather, paper, and adhesives, home care. But The major part is textiles, and I'm also happy to see Deepali there, whom we are one of the major sustainable suppliers of dyes and chemical with a lot of interactions on innovations as well. We are focused, my talk will be focused more towards the global market situation, the COVID impact, and what we can do in textiles and some gaps and how the brands are playing and where we are missing the whole story. India, basically, when you look at as compared to the world and also in the world economy of textiles, only 2 to 3% of the production is basically sustainable. When you look at consumer behavior, the fast fashion will start to stabilize as the consumers start demanding more durable cotton and clothing for the future. And this more durable clothing will mean that the second-hand market will grow. And this will really make an impact on fast fashion in the next 5 to 10 years. We need to be realizing this very well. And also the working lifestyle change and has more relaxed and dress sense has really changed the whole dynamics. The decreased use of formal suits, shirts, and even to an extent denim. This is also impacted very nicely towards the home textile, as Deepali was saying, that it revived very fast. And home textile, with the home working, a lot of demand has happened, including not only the bed covers, bed sheet towels, but also in the area of furnitures happening in the home area. Now, also, when you look at this market changing taste on home decor and furnishing has been also major part of it, where the consumptions basically for home textile is in Europe and US, where 60% of the home textile imports happen. The major prominent suppliers to home textile, India is major, but apart from that, China, Pakistan, and Turkey are still existing. We need to tackle that part also quite well. But also there is a lot of demand for apparel within the Asian, where the population is going to grow enormously. The overall, when you look at this market size, the fast fashion is just 6%. Sportswear is a big part, where India is missing a big chunk of the business. Outdoor also products are there with tents and various other things, which is about 3%. But denim and casual wear is still big, about 13%. The biggest market is in the retail and the brand, which is really ruling. And there we need to be working on towards that and creating more brands and going more digital. Home textiles is about 118 billion market globally and 685 billion market on the fashion and the apparel side. The regulatory pressures are going to be important. We need to be aware of that with respect to a lot of Asian countries also would like to put in EPA, REACH, and also, you know, the textile is ruled by a lot of certifications. One of the things we need to do is this whole list of certification is a lot of cost to the industry. Can we do something on the certification? We have so many, and every certification is a cost. And can we not have, like in pharmaceuticals, maybe an FDA regulation or some certification? So one certification things can be more easier for the people. In home textiles, as you know, that there is always move towards reduction in formaldehyde, less of halogen-free, halogen-based film retardants, and also the fluorine-based repellents. But there is also a demand coming in more on the natural products, mass-based earth colors, which we have, and also could be a focus on jute going forward. The major challenge when you look at resource utilization is mainly on this produce faster. The lead time has to be managed, and larger volumes in home textiles also means a lot of utilization of water, energy, and that's where I feel most of the companies are working to make sure that it's more efficient in terms of production, and also on working on sustainability. There are a lot of things can be done with respect to either going more for pigment, printing than more of reactive, which consumes more water. These small changes have to happen. Also on this performance enhancement, this is where we need to really look at how we can enhance the performance either by improving the coloration part, the staining, and various problems which happens to the consumer, and more coordination on especially in home textiles and more functionality, bringing in terms of anti-wrinkle and additional properties and non-iron. The fast fashion is really, we need to look at the Zaras of the world or the Gaps or Uniqlo. They're more on the performance and also high price, but also low price fast fashion companies like brands like H&M and also TRB is there. And most of these things of cotton is coming from India, Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Vietnam, but synthetics we are a bit weak. And that's where what Dipaliji was saying, that this man-made fibers have to be really pushed, because it's all flooded in Taiwan, Korea, and China. And there are some overflow of this is happening, especially in the area of blended textiles. And we need to really look at and develop skills to do that. In sportswear, we are very weak. When you look at activewear and sportswear, the big brands like Adidas, Reebok, they also buy.
Can I request you to be just brief now, since we are running out of time? Thank you.
Okay. So just quickly coming on to the denim area, which has also been neglected, where the bigger brands are there at where the retail prices are very high with diesel and all. We don't participate much there. We need to improve our quality, because we are not able to be as good as Bangladesh, as good as Pakistan, or as good as China in terms of cost and quality. When you look at now the major things which can be done in India is one to look at, can we reduce the second-hand or the used garments inflow into India? That is one thing. Can we develop more of this blended textiles knowledge? Technical textiles requires a lot of hand-holding in this area, and a lot of learning on sustainability. We as a company are working towards more how to produce safe, how to produce and make sure that the consumers feel it's safe. The other aspect is efficiency in terms of resource efficiency, and then can we create more value and value enhancement and things which we can differentiate and get more value out of the products. This was my thought process. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad. The time that we were waiting for to listen to the Honorable Minister, I now request Smriti ji to please address the gathering. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. At the onset, let me congratulate the ASSOCHAM family for over a century of excellence. Today, you come together to pay tribute to the potential of India, to the potential of every Indian citizen. As has been annotated in the presentation, your topic of this morning is the future lies in the past, and how we can leverage India's embedded knowledge to pivot the country's growth story. And while we see a galaxy of speakers today who truly reflect the potential of our country, what I would like to particularly begin with is a statement made by Priya Agarwal, that when we come together, we seek to build a nation of equal opportunities. And while we reflect on the past and prepare for the future, taking forward what Priya said, what is the future in store for us? While we build the future, we need to make a determined effort to ensure that the shackles of the past don't chain us in the present and hinder our prospects for the future. What are those shackles which today many illuminaries on your panels have reflected on? I begin with Mr. Hiranandani, who spoke about a need for policy reforms, a need that has been imbibed in the governance processes of the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. At the very onset of policy discussions, when we speak about industrial capacity and growth, we speak about the knowledge potential of India. And as Priya had said, can we conform the structures of knowledge only to those who have received formal education? Or do we celebrate the inherent Indian potential to become entrepreneurs, the inherent Indian inclination to conform to legacies of crafts and arts, the inherent Indian potential to learn while they work? Do we also give space to such opportunities in industries as we grow? I am today extremely buoyant that these visions are amalgamated in the new education policy, a policy that came into being after 3 decades, a policy that recognizes that we need to create knowledge systems that give equal importance to our regional languages, that give equal opportunity for vocational training for our citizens, and that also recognize that the future lies in a partnership with technology and hence create early experiences with emerging technologies for our students. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit the Indian shores, not many across the globe were confident of the Indian response. And today, as Minister of Textiles, I can say that one of the greatest examples of Indian resilience was given by the Indian textiles industry in the manufacturing of the PPE suit. We all were witness to millions of deaths across the country and infection spread amongst frontline workers. And one of the consistent demands from frontline workers and the medical community across the world was for provision of PPE suits. There was a concern in the Indian diaspora as to, given the size of our population, can we protect our frontline workers and our medical community as the virus spread? And it is at such times that the Indian textile industry rose to a challenge which honestly the industry was not prepared for. The making of PPE suits was not an effort of the textile industry alone. We saw a relentless effort from across ministries of Government of India and across cross-segment of industry in support of the Indian textile industry. And why I refer to Priya Agarwal today? I fondly recall one of the SMEs who were producers of apparel manufacturers. They wanted to contribute to the PPE story by reorienting their manufacturing processes and not make garments but PPE suits for medical community. What they lacked was the finances for machinery, the sealing machine to be particular, which was needed so that they could contribute to a national cause. I distinctly remember calling up the gentleman who heads Vedanta and besieging Mr. Agarwal that though this is not your core industry, could you lend a hand in support to this small SME so that they can also produce the PPE suit? The fact that industry giants held hands with the SMEs is again the quintessential Indian story of bringing together partnerships, bringing together a pool of talented people, and a resilient then lot rising to challenges which are national in nature and have a global effect. As we celebrate the fact that India today has become the second largest manufacturer and exporter of PPEs, we celebrate the true Indian potential to partner with one another in times of crisis. While Mr. Hiranandani in his opening remarks spoke about the agricultural reforms, I must here underline that when reform takes place in one segment of our economy, its impact is determined across the value chain of the Indian economy. And I speak about the agricultural reforms in context to the comments made by Mr. Rajkumar on your panel today. When the agricultural reforms came into being, they were not a happenstance. It was a contribution of dialogues and deliberations that have been undertaken for 19 years. Such has been the expanse of the dialogue across-cutting, across industry, across agricultural sectors, across farmer organizations and specialists who want to leverage technology in the field of agriculture so that the potential benefit is accrued not only by farmers but also industry and citizens at large. That today when we look at agricultural reforms, I would like to here highlight the industry impact of the same. We all know that the Government of India, in a determined effort, has ensured that MSP operations undergo with the help of technology, and those who participate in the MSP operation receive direct benefit transfer of their funds into their bank accounts. I hereby highlight the fact that in the year 2013-14, in the cotton segment, MSP operations were only worth 90 crores. Last year, MSP operations in the cotton segment alone reached a value in total of 28,500 crores. This season, I am proud to announce that in the cotton segment, MSP operations worth 14,659 crores have already been undertaken, and 9,63,000 farmers in our country who are cotton producers have directly received into their bank accounts the amount of 11,799 crores. This is done in only 2 months, which means that when we look at policy reforms, when we look at the vision as has been professed by many on this distinguished panel today, the idea called Atmanirbhar Bharat cannot come to a fruition when we work in silos. So while on one hand, the government of India undertakes agricultural reforms, on the other hand, we leverage technology to provide farm support and undertake MSP operation. What is the industry impact of engaging with farmers and industry on issues such as cotton? As Rajkumar ji on your panel here said, that today many of our industry, especially the SME segment, is reorienting themselves from the vision of exporting the Indian wear. Today, if you look at the extra long staple cotton, we currently produce only 4 lakh bales. Looking at the agricultural reform, if industry conjoins its effort with the farming community, and we bring up the potential growth of production of ELS cotton from 4 lakh bales to 50 lakh bales, then the impact on the Indian cotton textile industry will be such that we will increase our businesses from the current $18 billion to $80 billion. That is a potential that needs to be leveraged and explored. And I'm hopeful that the industry leaders, along with the farming community, can leverage that new horizon for Indian cotton and Indian cotton-based textiles. As has been enunciated by a few speakers on your panel this morning, the PLI scheme gives much cause for celebration. A dedicated 10,000 crores so that man-made fiber-based textiles and especially technical textiles can have potential support, not only from the government of India, but also investors internationally who see a huge potential for the expansion of this segment of the Indian textile industry. We in the Ministry of Textiles, under the guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, are currently not only bringing to form a structure under which the PLI scheme for technical textiles and MMF will roll out, but as has been assuaged and as has been expressed by leaders such as Mr. Hiranandani and Dipali Goenka, we are currently on the anvil of also bringing to the fore the new Indian textile policy. Ladies and gentlemen, need I remind you that the last time India had a textile policy was 2 decades ago. But while we speak of policies, what is the comprehensive plan of the government, or for that matter, the relentlessness with which the government implements these policies? I remember when the Honorable Prime Minister took to office in the year 2014, there was a clarion call that he gave for Digital India. There were many who had a question with regards to what impact would Digital India create as a policy clarion call by the Honorable Prime Minister. And today in COVID times, I am sure every Indian would agree. If not for that preparation, India would have faced immense challenge in implementing services, in implementing transactions between businesses, and in ensuring that our economy still continues to survive the onslaught by the global pandemic. Lastly, what is the quintessential knowledge system that is embedded in our past? As Priya said this morning, that we thrive on the basis of traditional knowledge systems, but we also want to look at equal opportunities, and especially with regards to women. It is often said and celebrated about the Indian textile industry that 70% of our workforce is constituted by women. And today I have 2 female leaders from industry, one particularly from the field of textiles, which gladdens my heart. But what about providing opportunities to the average Indian women? And that is where the government's policy, and I was looking on those policy measures which provide not only for equal opportunities to compete in the job market, but also equal opportunity to survive. Because the struggle of Indian women begins right at birth. It is a struggle which is brought on by gender. It is a struggle which is brought on by opportunities in education. And then, as Priya has said, it's a struggle when it also comes at equal opportunity to compete in the job market. And when I look at those opportunities, I'm buoyant about the fact that for the first time in the national education policy, we find the inclusion of the Gender Inclusion Fund, where predominantly the government of India will partner with states across the country to ensure that the gender challenge in education is addressed. Additionally, why do women strive to get a take-home pay? They strive so that they can support their families in terms of medical crisis. And it is such crises that break the back of an average, or for that matter, a poor Indian family. And need I remind this August panel that it is this government under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister that had a historic advent of medical support under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Never before in the history of our country were 10 crore families given a 5 lakh medical benefit for the entire family every year. The impact of this on women has been such that over 70 lakh women have got themselves tested, and mind you, these are women from poor families. They've got themselves screened for breast cancer. Over 50 lakh women in the poor rural segments of our economy have got themselves tested for cervical cancer. These are issues which women never discussed in open forums. But the fact that they are leveraging the government scheme to provide themselves the medical protection speaks volumes about the policy initiative and reforms undertaken by the government of India. Many women, and especially girls in our country, were compelled to leave school for the lack of toilets and for collection of wood so that they could supplement fuel in their kitchens. Today, we can proudly say that over 8 crore women in India have received clean cooking fuel under the government's program of Ujjwala Yojana. For many men on this panel, or possibly women, it might be a tad bit difficult to correlate the impact of clean cooking fuel, or for that matter, the construction of a toilet for a poor Indian woman. But imagine the struggles of waiting the entire day for the sun to set so that you can relieve yourself. So the government of India, in terms of its approach when it looks at reforms in the agriculture sector, in the approach of bringing reform in the labor segment, in the approach of the national education policy, or for that matter, the anvil of the textile policy, which is to be proffered for consultation with the industry, I must here highlight that we have looked at not only the economic impact of policy, but also the humanitarian approach so that we can create a nation of equal opportunities. Lastly, I heard a leader from the chemical industry speak of the need for sustainability. We must take refuge in the fact that international studies have shown that there will be, by 2030, a $12 trillion economy a year market for the sustainable market or the sustainable economic agenda. And I'm hopeful that a country which speaks of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which speaks of welfare not only of human beings, but also the animal community, which speaks of the global family as one, and which speaks of preserving our natural elements, can find industrial opportunities in the segment of sustainability as well. I'm grateful that I've been given an opportunity to engage with industry leaders on an expansive issues today. But like I said in the beginning of my comments, we create a future while ensuring that the shackles of the past do not bind our opportunities in silos. India is stepping up to a new future. And my desire is, as Priya has said at the beginning of her remarks, that together we create a nation of equal opportunities under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, and create partnerships that answer the national cause, not only in the times of crisis such as COVID-19, but also in the times to come, where without crisis too, we can leverage the Indian inherent potential to be entrepreneurs and leaders in our own right. Once again, ASSOCHAM family, my greatest congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was, as always, delightful to hear you. And I would now like to invite Mr. G.S. Singhvi, who's a managing director at Hindustan Fibers, to give a vote of thanks, please.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to intervene to say, Madam Minister, it's been such a delight to listen to your understanding of how the economy, the textile, the child welfare, women would really be. It enthused me completely. So thank you very much for all the inputs. I promise you personally, and on behalf of all the members who are here and the panelists, that we will do our level best to actually catch up to the vision that you have put up and the Prime Minister has put up. My heartiest congratulations on a wonderful speech that you have made. Really gladdens my heart when we hear you with such clarity of thought and vision and action that has been there. So thank you very much. I know Mr. Singhvi will do a formal one, but I couldn't but intervene. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Singhvi.
Honorable Smriti Irani ji, Niranjan Hiranandani ji, Vineet Agarwal ji, and the fellow panelists. Madam, on the outset, it gives me great privilege to acknowledge your dynamic leadership for heading most vibrant textile sector, which contributes to 2.5% GDP, 7% of industrial growth, and 12% of export earning. Textile is the second largest employment of the agriculture. Let me, on behalf of ASSOCHAM, congratulate the government for formulating policies to make country's textile sector most vibrant and growth-oriented by removing anti-dumping duty on PTA, by level playing field for polyester manufacturing units, 100% FDI under automatic route, product link incentive in man-made fiber and technical textile with financial outlay of rupees 10,683 crore under Atmanirbhar Bharat package. This will not only create most job opportunities but also attract FDI and enhance export. This will help textile sector to grow at a faster pace and achieve the target of $280 billion by 2025 from present $140 billion set by our Prime Minister Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji. And this will be possible if we go back to see the PPE kit story during COVID period. We can definitely achieve this target. Indian textile industry has a capacity to produce wide range of product from textile, from technical handicraft to technical textile for automobile, healthcare, infrastructure, oil and petroleum. Madam, this sector definitely needs handholding by the government for further promotion. The textile has witnessed a spurt in investment during last decade and have attracted FDI worth $3.45 billion from April 2010 to 2020. The future of Indian textile industry looks vibrant, promising, based on strong domestic consumption as well as export demand, especially in the light of US tariff war with China. To achieve the target of $280 billion production by 2025, as asked by our Honorable Prime Minister, I would like to humbly submit for the government to consider. First, single GST rate from raw material to fabric and garment. Product link incentive scheme should be made applicable for fiber and yarn. Government should also negotiate with trade agreement with US and UAE to reduce duty on Indian textiles. With these words, on behalf of ASSOCHAM, I express my sincere thanks to our chief guest, Mrs. Smriti Irani, Honorable Minister of Textile and Women and Child Development, Government of India, and other learned speakers from the industry for sharing their views at the ASSOCHAM Foundation Week Celebration 2020. Thank you all. Jai Bharat.